The world is filled with bullies, but some bullies operate on a different level. They don't use their fists. They use their power, their connections, and their bottomless bank accounts to crush anyone they see as beneath them. Genevieve Davenport was the queen of this world. At the exclusive restaurant Aperture, her name was a curse, whispered in fear. She could have a server fired for breathing the wrong way. She was the millionaire's wife, and she was untouchable. At least, that's what everyone thought, until the day a new, unassuming waitress named Kate Miller was assigned her table. And Kate was not who she seemed to be. The air inside Aperture was different from the bustling New York street it overlooked. It was filtered, hushed, and heavy with the scent of old money and saffron. The carpets were so thick they seemed to drink sound. The cutlery, heavy, polished silver, rested on starched linen with geometric precision. This wasn't just a restaurant, it was a fortress of a specific social class, and its walls had seen more corporate mergers and quiet threats than they had birthday celebrations. Kate Miller, on her third day, felt the oppressive quiet in her bones. She adjusted the knot on her simple black apron, her posture perfect, her expression neutral. She was, by all accounts, an exemplary employee. She was quick, silent, and anticipated needs before they were spoken. Mr. Bisset, the restaurant's general manager, had been watching her. Bisset was a man perpetually folded in on himself, as if bowing. He glided over to her station by the sommelier's cabinet. "Miller," he whispered, though the dining room was still half empty. "You're handling Section 3 tonight." Kate nodded. "Yes, Mr. Bisset. Section 3 includes Table 7. A flicker of something, an imperceptible tightening, passed through Kate's eyes, but her voice remained level. "Understood." Bisset leaned closer, his own anxiety radiating from him like a bad cologne. "No, I don't think you do understand. Table 7 is Mrs. Davenport, Genevieve Davenport." Kate maintained her professional stillness. She knew the name. In the 3 days of her training, she had heard it spoken only in hushed, fearful tones in the staff locker room. "She expects perfection," Bisset continued, unnecessarily straightening Kate's already perfect apron. "And her definition of perfection is fluid. It changes with her mood, which is universally foul." Another waitress, Sophie, was polishing glasses nearby, and her hands visibly trembled at the mention of the name. She'd been at Aperture for 2 years and had seen the carnage. "Last month," Bisset said, his voice dropping even lower. "She had a busboy, young man named Leo, fired. On the spot." "What was his mistake?" Kate asked, her tone clinical. She claimed his shoes squeaked aggressively. Before that, it was a server named Anne. Mrs. Davenport insisted Anne's shade of red lipstick was provocative and disrespectful to her husband. Anne was gone before the entrees were cleared. Bisset was trying to terrify her. He was trying to imbue her with the same systemic fear that kept the entire staff walking on eggshells. "Do not make eye contact unless she addresses you," he instructed. "Do not speak unless spoken to. Refer to her only as Mrs. Davenport. Ensure her water glass, it must be San Pellegrino, room temperature, is never less than half full, but never fill it more than 3/4. She will have the seared foie gras to start. She always does. If the kitchen deviates at all, God help us." "And Mr. Davenport?" Kate asked. "Lawrence, he barely matters," Bisset sniffed. "He just pays the bills. Your focus is her. She is the sun around which this restaurant orbits, Miller. And she is a burning, destructive sun. Do you understand?" "I understand," Kate said. "She requires a high level of service." Bisset looked at her, frustrated by her calm. "No, she requires submission. Now go. She arrives at 7 o'clock. Precisely." Kate walked back to her station, refilling the small silver salt cellars. Sophie hurried past her, pretending to grab more linens. "Hey," Sophie whispered, her eyes wide with genuine pity. "He's not kidding. She's a monster." "My advice? Just apologize. No matter what she says, just say, 'My apologies, Mrs. Davenport,' and get Bisset. Don't try to explain, don't try to fix it. Just grovel. It's the only way." Kate gave Sophie a small, tight smile. "Thanks for the warning, Sophie." "I'm serious, Kate. She enjoys the spectacle. She likes making people cry." "I'm not a crier," Kate said quietly, her gaze drifting to table 7. It was the best table in the house, a plush, semicircular booth in the corner, offering a panoramic view of the dining room and the city skyline, while simultaneously cocooned in privacy. It was a throne. At 6:59 p.m., the heavy glass doors of Aperture opened. A hush didn't fall. The restaurant was already hushed, but the energy shifted. The staff stiffened. The air crackled. Genevieve Davenport had arrived. She was a tall woman, perhaps in her late 50s, maintained with the kind of ruthless, expensive precision that left no room for softness. Her silver blonde hair was pulled into a chignon, so tight it seemed to pull the skin taut at her temples. She wore a simple, sleeveless black dress that Kate recognized as Loro Piana, a garment that cost more than Kate's annual rent. Around her wrist was a delicate, blinding string of diamonds. Her face was sharp, aristocratic, and her pale blue eyes scanned the room with profound, sweeping boredom, as if daring anything to disappoint her. Bisset was already at her side, bowing. "Mrs. Davenport, a pleasure. Your table is ready, of course." Genevieve ignored him, gliding past him as if he were furniture. She didn't walk. She advanced. Her husband, Lawrence, trailed a few steps behind. He was a tall man, handsome in a faded, stressed way. He was checking his phone, his brow furrowed, and nearly bumped into his wife when she stopped abruptly at the table. Genevieve ran a single, gloved finger along the back of the upholstered booth. She examined the finger, found no dust, and only then did she slide in. Bisset waved frantically, unseen by the Davenports. It was Kate's cue. Taking a deep breath, Kate picked up the silver water pitcher and the bottle of San Pellegrino. She approached the table. "Good evening," she said, her voice clear and calm. Lawrence grunted from behind his phone. Genevieve didn't even look up. She was busy scrutinizing the tines of her fork. Kate poured Lawrence's ice water, then uncapped the San Pellegrino for Genevieve, pouring it to the precise, Bisset-approved level. "Your server for this evening will be—" Bisset began. "She knows," Genevieve cut in, her voice like splintered ice. She still hadn't looked at Kate. She was now staring at the small, flickering candle at the center of the table. "This candle. The wick is too long. It's smoking." Kate looked. There was no smoke. "My apologies, Mrs. Davenport. I will replace it immediately." She retrieved the candle with a small, steady hand and replaced it with a new one from her station. When she returned, Genevieve was finally looking at her. The gaze was invasive, a full-body scan that was designed to find flaws. Genevieve's eyes lingered on Kate's hands. They were clean, nails trimmed and unpolished, but they were working hands. "You're new," Genevieve stated. It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. "Yes, ma'am, this is my first week." "And they put you on my table?" Bisset's standards are plummeting. She sighed, a sound of profound suffering. "I suppose I'll have the foie gras. And tell the chef if it's grainy at all. Like the last time, I will be sending it back, and I will be speaking to him personally." "Of course, Mrs. Davenport," And for you, sir? Kate asked, turning to Lawrence. Oh, whatever she's having. And a whiskey. Macallan 18. Neat. Very good, sir. Kate turned to leave. Wait, Genevieve snapped. Kate paused, turning back. Your apron, it's creased. At the hip. Kate glanced down. There was a faint line from where it had been folded. My apologies. Mrs. A. It's distracting. It shows a lack of care, a lack of professionalism. It's an insult to the clientele. Don't you agree, Lawrence? Lawrence, texting furiously, just nodded. Yes, dear. Appalling. Go and have it pressed, Genevieve commanded. I don't want to look at it. Find another server to take our order to the kitchen. You are dismissed until you can present yourself appropriately. It was a power play, pure and simple, designed to fluster, to humiliate. Sophie, watching from across the room, held her breath. Bissett was already moving forward, ready to apologize and sacrifice Kate to the dragon. But Kate didn't fluster. She simply nodded, her expression unchanged. Of course, Mrs. Davenport. She didn't scurry away. She walked calmly, with purpose, to Mr. Bissett, relayed the order, handed him the docket, and then walked toward the staff area, presumably to find an iron. Genevieve Davenport watched her go, her perfectly arched eyebrow raising just a fraction. The girl hadn't trembled. She hadn't flushed. She hadn't even looked annoyed. For the first time in a long time, Genevieve was intrigued. This new toy might be harder to break than the others, and that, she decided, would make it so much more fun. Kate returned 10 minutes later. Her apron was, of course, immaculate. The dining room was filling up, the low din of polite conversation and clinking glasses forming a backdrop to the quiet tension at table 7. She approached, silent as a shadow, and topped off Genevieve's water. Genevieve, who had been deep in a monologue about the tacky jewelry worn by a woman across the room, a Mrs. Vanderbilt no less, stopped mid-sentence. You took your time, Genevieve said, not looking at her. I wanted to ensure it was perfect, Mrs. Davenport. Genevieve took a sip of water. She set the glass down and stared at it. This water, it's tepid. It's room temperature, ma'am, as requested. Genevieve's head snapped up. Her eyes narrowed. It was the first time a server had corrected her, rather than immediately apologizing. Are you telling me what I am tasting, girl? Not at all, Mrs. Davenport. I am simply stating the fact of the water. If you would prefer it chilled, I would be happy to bring you a fresh glass with ice. The audacity of it. The simple, unadorned fact. Genevieve felt a hot prickle of rage. This wasn't the script. The script was gasp, apology, flinch, tears. I requested room temperature. This, she said, tapping the glass, is not it. It's been sitting. The life is gone from it. It's dead. Are you trying to poison me with dead water? Lawrence finally looked up from his phone, sensing the dangerous shift in his wife's tone. Genevieve, please. It's water. It's the principle, Lawrence, she snapped. We pay thousands of dollars a month to dine here, and this child is serving me stale water and arguing about it. She turned her full, venomous attention back to Kate. What is your name? Kate Miller, ma'am. Kate Miller. Well, Kate Miller, you have failed at the simplest task, pouring water. It does not bode well for the rest of the meal. She waved her hand dismissively. Go. Get Mr. Bissett. I want a new server. You are clearly incompetent. Kate's expression did not change. Very good, Mrs. Davenport. She turned and walked, not to Bissett, but to the bar. She procured a new, unopened bottle of San Pellegrino and a fresh, polished glass. She returned to the table. Genevieve watched her, her face a mask of thunderous disbelief. Did you hear me? I said you are dismissed. "I did hear you, Mrs. Davenport," Kate said calmly, placing the new glass down and opening the bottle with a discreet psst. "However, Mr. Bissett is currently handling a situation with the wine cellar, and the other servers are occupied." She poured the new glass of water. "I believe you will find this bottle, opened just now, to be more to your liking. Your foie gras will be out momentarily." She gave a small, correct nod and retreated to her station. Genevieve was left staring, her mouth slightly open. She was speechless. The new girl had not just disobeyed a direct order. She had handled her. She had navigated the complaint, solved it, and dismissed herself before Genevieve could escalate. Lawrence, who had watched the entire exchange, let out a low, almost imperceptible chuckle. He disguised it as a cough. "What?" Genevieve hissed at him. "It's so funny." "Nothing, dear. Just, she's efficient." "She's insolent," Genevieve seethed. But the complaint was dead. She couldn't very well scream about the water, now that a fresh, perfectly fine glass was sitting in front of her. To do so would make her look, well, exactly like what she was. A petty tyrant. And appearance was everything. She took a vicious sip of the water. It was, of course, identical to the last glass. When the foie gras arrived, carried by Kate, Genevieve inspected it as if it were a suspicious package. She poked it with her fork. She sniffed it. She took the tiniest bite. "Well?" Lawrence asked, eager to eat. Genevieve chewed slowly, her eyes fixed on Kate, who stood a respectful 10 feet away, watching her section. "It's adequate," Genevieve pronounced, but she didn't send it back. A small, dangerous smile played on her lips. This was not a defeat. It was merely a delay. This Kate Miller had won the battle of the water. But Genevieve Davenport was preparing for a war. She would find this girl's weakness. She would dig, she would press, and she would find the fault line. And when she did, she would apply all her pressure, and she would watch her shatter. It was, after all, her favorite pastime. Genevieve Davenport became a woman obsessed. She had, for years, ruled Aperture through sheer, unadulterated terror. Her power was built on the assumption that everyone who served her was desperate, breakable, and, ultimately, disposable. A raised eyebrow from her could end a career. But Kate Miller was an anomaly. She didn't cower. She didn't fawn. She didn't react. She simply served. Genevieve abandoned her usual Tuesday-Thursday dining schedule. She and Lawrence began dining at Aperture 4, sometimes 5 times a week, and every single time she sat at table 7 and specifically requested, through a sneer, "The new girl. Miller. I'm testing her." What ensued was a campaign of psychological warfare. "Kate!" she would snap, clicking her fingers, a gesture that made the entire staff recoil. "This silverware has a water spot." Kate would appear, inspect the fork and say, "My apologies, Mrs. Davenport," and replace it. The new fork would, of course, be identical. The next night. "Kate, you're hovering. It's oppressive. I feel like a vulture is circling me." "Go away." Kate would nod and retreat. 5 minutes later. "Kate, where are you? My glass has been empty for 30 seconds. The service here is glacial." Kate would reappear, refill the glass, and nod. "My apologies, Mrs. Davenport." It was the "my apologies" that drove Genevieve mad. It was delivered with the same emotional temperature as "the sky is blue." It was a statement of fact, not an act of contrition. Kate was a mirror, reflecting Genevieve's own absurdity back at her, and Genevieve hated it. She escalated. One evening, while Kate was delivering a complex order, a Chateaubriand for 2, carved tableside, Genevieve accidentally knocked her heavy linen napkin to the floor. "Oh dear," she said, her voice dripping with false innocence. "My napkin." She stared at Kate, expecting her to stop the carving, bend down, and retrieve it. It was a clear power move. Stop your skilled task and perform this menial one. Kate didn't stop. She finished the slice of beef, plated it perfectly for Lawrence, and then, placing the carving knife down, she bent, not in a grovel, but in a clean, athletic hinge at the waist, and picked up the napkin with a pair of silver tongs she kept on her service cart. "Your napkin, Mrs. Davenport," she said, placing it on the table. She then plated Genevieve's portion and wheeled the cart away. Sophie, who witnessed it, whispered to another server, "Did you see that? The tongs! Like it was a piece of trash. Oh my God, she's going to get us all killed." Genevieve's face had turned a pale, blotchy red. She was being treated with meticulous, infuriating, impersonal correctness. She wasn't a queen, she was just a task on a checklist. She turned her venom on Lawrence. "Did you see that? The insolence! She thinks she's too good to pick up my napkin." Lawrence, who was more and more stressed every night, barely looked up from his phone, where he was staring at what looked like stock tickers plummeting. "She did pick it up, dear. With tongs. Very hygienic." "You're useless," Genevieve hissed. She had to find a new angle. She had to make it personal. The next evening, Genevieve arrived alone. She was dressed in a severe, white Chanel suit. She looked like an Arctic predator. She sat at table 7 and waved Kate over. "A glass of Sancerre," she ordered. And Kate. That's such a plain name, isn't it? Kate Miller. It sounds like beige paint. It sounds like someone who will never amount to anything. Kate, polishing a wine glass at her station, didn't turn. "Will that be the Pascal Jolivet Sancerre, Mrs. Davenport?" "Don't ignore me," Genevieve snapped. Kate turned, her face a mask of professional calm. "I am not Mrs. Davenport. I am confirming your wine order." "I'm talking about your station in life," Genevieve said, leaning forward, her voice low and cruel. "You're a bright girl. I can see that. But you're stuck here, serving people like me, people who matter. Does it not just eat you alive, knowing this is all you'll ever be?" This was it, the direct attack, the attempt to find the insecurity, the wound, and pour salt in it. Kate paused. She placed the polishing cloth down. She walked the few steps to table 7, standing not as a servant, but as an equal. "Mrs. Davenport," Kate said, her voice quiet but carrying the weight of steel. "Are you unhappy with the wine list?" Genevieve blinked, thrown. "What? No, I'm making an observation." "Because your observations about my name and my potential," Kate said, "are not on the menu, and they are not part of my job description." "How dare you?" Genevieve whispered, her eyes wide with fury. "I can bring your Sancerre. I can take your food order. I can ensure you have a flawless dining experience. But I am not here to be your confidant, nor your punching bag. You are a client of this restaurant, and I am an employee. Let us keep it that way." "Bisset!" Genevieve shrieked, her voice cracking the restaurant's placid atmosphere. "Bisset!" The entire dining room froze. Diners looked up. Spoons stopped halfway to mouths. Mr. Bisset came running, his face ashen. "Mrs. Davenport, what is it? What's wrong?" This creature." Genevieve pointed a trembling, diamond-encrusted finger at Kate. "She insulted me. She spoke to me. I want her fired, not tomorrow, not in an hour. Now, I want her walked out of that door, or I will ruin this restaurant. I will call the post. I will tell them you have a vermin problem." Bisset was vibrating with panic. He turned to Kate, his eyes pleading. "Apologize. Grovel, fix this." Kate simply stood, her hands clasped behind her back. She looked at Bissett. She looked at Genevieve. "Mrs. Davenport," Kate said, her voice still perfectly level. "I simply clarified the boundaries of our professional relationship. I will not be spoken to in that manner." "You see," Genevieve screamed, "she admits it. Fire her! Fire her, or I am calling my husband, and he will buy this building just to demolish it with you all inside." Bassett was trapped. On one side, his most powerful, toxic customer. On the other, an employee who, inexplicably, would not bend. "Miss Miller," Bissett stammered, "you must apologize to Mrs. Davenport." At once. Kate looked at him. "No." The word hung in the air. A gunshot. "No!" Bissett whispered, horrified. "No, I have nothing to apologize for." Genevieve let out a sound that was half laugh, half gasp. "It's her or me, Bissett. Make your choice, and make it now." Bissett, sweating profusely, looked at Kate. "Miss Miller, please, gather your things. You are suspended." Kate nodded once. "As you wish." She untied her apron, folded it neatly, and placed it on her service station. She did not look at Genevieve. She did not look at Sophie, who was watching with tears in her eyes. She simply turned and walked, with perfect posture, through the dining room and out the front door. Genevieve Davenport sat back in her booth. A slow, triumphant smile spread across her face. She had won. The mirror had finally cracked. She took a long, slow sip of her water. It was delicious. Genevieve floated through the next week. The victory over Kate Miller had been total. She had proven, once again, that her power was absolute. Bissett was more obsequious than ever. Sophie, who had been forced to take over Table 7, was a trembling, apologizing wreck, which suited Genevieve perfectly. But something was off. The satisfaction of the win was fading faster than usual. It had been, in the end, too easy. The girl hadn't cried. She hadn't begged. She had simply left. It was an unsatisfying ending to her little play. Worse, Lawrence was becoming impossible. He was rarely home. When he was locked in his study, his voice a low, angry murmur on conference calls. The stress that had been simmering under his skin for weeks was now radiating off him in palpable waves. He joined her for dinner at Aperture on Friday, a week after Kate's dismissal. He looked terrible. His suit was rumpled, and he hadn't shaved. "Lawrence, you look a fright," Genevieve complained as he slumped into the booth. "People are staring. You're embarrassing me." "Shut up, Jen," he muttered, not looking up from his phone. Genevieve recoiled. "What did you just say to me?" "I said, shut up. Just for one night. Can you not be you? I don't have the energy for it. How dare you? After I just solved our little service problem at this restaurant?" Lawrence let out a sharp, barking laugh. "Your service problem? That's what's on your mind? My God. It's about standards, Lawrence. Something you clearly know nothing about, judging by your appearance." "Standards," he scoffed. He signaled wildly to Sophie. "Whiskey, double, now." Sophie scurried off. "Lawrence, what is wrong with you?" Genevieve hissed, her pleasure in the evening rapidly dissolving. "You're making a scene." "A scene?" He finally looked at her, and his eyes were bloodshot and raw with a panic she had never seen before. "A scene is what's about to happen to our entire lives if I can't fix this." "Fix what? What are you talking about? Did that bad investment in whatever it was go sour?" "That bad investment, Genevieve, was 40% of our liquid assets, and yes, it went sour. It's gone." "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "I mean vaporized. The tech firm I backed just had its flagship product denied by the FDA. The stock is in freefall. It's worthless." Genevieve felt a cold stone drop into her stomach. 40%. insane," Lawrence said, finishing his whiskey. "You're delusional." "I am not. She cursed us, but I got rid of her. I can fix this." Genevieve's mind, warped by panic and narcissism, began to spin. She needed to re-establish control. She needed to feel powerful again. She needed a victim. If her husband was broken, she would have to find someone else to break. She looked around the restaurant, her eyes landing on Sophie, who was nervously polishing a glass, trying to avoid her gaze. A new, terrible idea began to form. She needed money. She needed to feel the thrill of a successful power play, and she still had her jewelry. For now. She looked at the heavy, custom-made diamond bracelet on her wrist, the one Lawrence didn't know she'd had commissioned last month, the one that wasn't on the collateral list. She could stage a tragedy, an accident, a theft. The insurance payout would be substantial, a nice, private cushion. Just for her, while Lawrence sorted out his pathetic mess, and she knew just who to blame. Genevieve's plan was as simple as it was cruel. She would lose her bracelet, accuse a staff member, and let the chaos play out. The insurance company would get a police report, and she would get a check. The casualty, the life of the server she implicated, was irrelevant. Collateral damage. She chose the following Tuesday. It was the restaurant's busiest night. More witnesses, more chaos. She arrived, alone and dressed for a funeral, in stark, intimidating black. She made a great show of accepting Bisset's fawning apologies for the Kate incident. She was gracious, playing the part of the magnanimous queen. "Mr. Bisset," she said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear, "I am just so rattled by that horrible girl. I feel unsafe, but I refuse to be driven from my favorite restaurant." "We are so grateful for your loyalty, Mrs. Davenport," Bisset gushed, seating her. "Sophie will be taking exceptional care of you." Sophie approached, her hands shaking so badly she almost spilled the water. "Good evening, Mrs. Davenport." "Yes, it is," Genevieve said, giving her a thin smile. She pointedly unclasped her bracelet, a thick band of platinum set with enormous emerald-cut diamonds. It was a staggering piece of jewelry, worth, at minimum, $500,000. "I find this clasp is pinching me," she said to Sophie. "Be a dear and put this in my handbag, will you? It's so heavy." She held out the bracelet. Sophie's eyes went wide. "Mum, I don't think I'm allowed to handle guest property like that." "Nonsense," Genevieve snapped. "It's a simple request. Are you as incompetent as the last one? Put it in my bag." She gestured to her Hermes Birkin bag, sitting on the seat beside her. Trembling, Sophie took the bracelet, it was shockingly heavy, and opening the bag, slid it into the silk-lined interior. "There, see?" "Not so hard," Genevieve said. "Now, I'll have the lobster, and be quick about it." Sophie scurried away. The meal proceeded. Genevieve was a nightmare, but a calculated nightmare. She sent the lobster back, claiming it was mushy. She complained the wine was too warm. She made Sophie make 3 separate trips to the kitchen for different types of salt. She was building a narrative, the difficult but fair customer being tormented by an inept server. Finally, as the dessert menus were offered, Genevieve prepared for her finale. She waited until Sophie was at the table, listing the specials. "And the special is a chocolate lava cake with—" "My bracelet," Genevieve said, her voice quiet. "I'm sorry, Mum," Sophie said, confused. "My bracelet, the one you put in my bag. I'd like it back now." Genevieve reached over and opened her Birkin. She began to rummage inside. Her movements became more and more frantic. "Where is it? Where is it?" She turned the bag upside down. A wallet, A gold pen, a lipstick, and a phone clattered onto the table. No bracelet. "It's gone," Genevieve whispered. Then her voice rose to a shattering crescendo. "It's gone! She stole it!" She shot up from the booth, pointing a finger directly at Sophie, who stumbled back, white as a sheet. You're the only one who touched it. You thief!" The restaurant stopped. Bissett came sprinting. "Mrs. Davenport, what is it?" "My bracelet. My diamond bracelet. That waitress stole it from my bag. I saw her. She put it in, but she must have palmed it. It's gone." "Ma'am, I swear, I didn't." Sophie was sobbing, collapsing in on herself. "I would never. I put it in the bag, just like you said." "Liar!" Genevieve shrieked. "She's a liar. It's worth a fortune. I want her arrested. I want her searched. Call the police. Call security. Lock the doors." Bissett, in a blind panic, did just that. He grabbed the house phone and called building security. 2 uniformed guards were upstairs in minutes. The dining room was in an uproar. Diners were standing, whispering. "Search her!" Genevieve commanded, her eyes glittering with a wild, terrifying power. "Search her pockets! Search her apron!" One of the guards, a big man named Frank, looked deeply uncomfortable. "Ma'am, we can't. Do it, or I will have your job, too." Helpless, Sophie just stood there, tears streaming down her face. I don't have it. Frank sighed, and, in front of the entire dining room, patted down the pockets of Sophie's apron. He found a wine key, a pen, and a book of matches. "It's not here, ma'am." "Her locker, then," Genevieve demanded. "She must have stashed it. She's probably been planning this for weeks. This is what happens when you hire from the gutter." "Mrs. Davenport, please," Bissett begged. "Let's take this to my office. We are disturbing the other guests." "I want them disturbed. I want them to see what kind of criminal you employ." "Check her locker," Bissett said to the guards, his voice dead. He just wanted this to end. One guard took a sobbing Sophie toward the staff area. The other stayed by the table. Genevieve sat back down, breathing heavily, playing the part of the violated victim. She accepted a glass of water from a terrified busboy. She was winning. The police would come. A report would be filed. Sophie would be fired and arrested. The insurance would pay. It was perfect. 5 minutes later, the guard and Sophie returned. "It's not in her locker, ma'am. Just her coat and her bus pass." Genevieve's smile faltered. This wasn't right. The bracelet had to be found on Sophie, or at least Sophie had to be the only plausible suspect. "She must have hidden it," Genevieve insisted. "In the kitchen, in the trash. She's a clever little thief, isn't she?" "Ma'am," Frank, the guard, said, "we can't find anything. We're going to have to call the NYPD and let them handle it." "Good," Genevieve said. "Do it." "And," the guard continued, "we'll have to pull the security footage. Standard procedure." At the mention of security footage, Genevieve's blood ran cold. She hadn't thought of that. The cameras. "That's not necessary," Genevieve said quickly. It's clearly her. Just arrest her. The footage is so grainy. It won't show anything." "Ma'am, it's procedure. The detectives will demand it," Frank said, his eyes narrowing slightly. He'd seen this kind of rich lady panic before. "No, I just want her gone," Genevieve stammered, her narrative crumbling. "We can't arrest her without evidence, ma'am, and right now, there is none." Genevieve was trapped. If they ran the footage. Perhaps, a new voice cut through the tension. "You should check the employees-only bathroom, the one by the loading dock. She was gone for a few minutes after clearing your table." Genevieve's head snapped toward the restaurant's entrance. Standing there, perfectly calm, was Kate Miller. She was not in her waitress uniform. She was wearing a simple, impeccably tailored navy blue pantsuit. Her hair was down, and she held a leather portfolio. She looked powerful. "You," Genevieve breathed, her face draining of all color. You're not allowed in here. Bissett, get her out." Kate smiled. It was a cold, sharp, terrifying smile. "It's all right, Mr. Bissett. I'm not here as staff." She looked at Frank, the guard. "You should, however, check that bathroom. I believe you'll find the bracelet wrapped in paper towels, tucked above the ceiling tile. A classic, panicked hiding spot." Frank, Bisset, and Genevieve all stared at her. How could you possibly know that?" Bissett whispered. "Because," Kate said, taking a step into the room, "I watched her put it there." The entire room went silent. I... Genevieve was sputtering. You're lying. You're in on it. You're her accomplice. You're angry. I got you fired." "I'm not angry at all, Genevieve," Kate said, her voice clear and carrying across the entire room. "And I'm not her accomplice." She walked forward, stopping directly in front of table 7. She looked at Sophie. "Sophie, you're fine. You can stop crying." She looked at Bisset. "You, on the other hand, are in a great deal of trouble." She then turned her full attention, a gaze as bright and hot as a laser, on Genevieve Davenport. "You really shouldn't have done this, Genevieve. It was sloppy, and it's forced my hand." Who are you?" Genevieve whispered, a genuine, primal fear now replacing her anger. Kate looked around the room, at the stunned diners, at the terrified staff. "My name," she said, "is Caitlin Miller Holloway." She paused to let the name land. Lawrence, who had been sitting in stunned silence, choked on his own breath. "Holloway? As in, the Holloway Group?" Kate's cold smile returned. "As in the Holloway Group. My father, Ronan Holloway, sends his regards. He was very interested in my service report from this location." The silence in Aperture was absolute. It was no longer the hush of refined dining. It was the suffocating, vacuum-sealed silence of a bomb detonating. Sophie stared at Kate, her tear-streaked face a mask of utter confusion. Mr. Bissett looked as though he might faint. Lawrence Davenport, who had been pale with financial stress, was now a translucent, ghostly white. But Genevieve's face was a rapid, horrifying collapse. The arrogance, the power, the sneering superiority. It all dissolved in real time, replaced by a raw, gaping-mouthed panic. "Holloway," she stammered. "No, that's a lie." "Is it?" Kate tilted her head. "My father wanted to acquire this building and the restaurant inside it. He'd been getting reports of inconsistencies in the management, a toxic work environment, astronomical staff turnover, and one, singularly, problematic client who was costing the restaurant a fortune in comps, staff morale, and reputation." She took a step closer to the table. "So I came in to do a ground-level audit. I like to see things for myself. I wanted to see if the management was salvageable, or if the problem was too entrenched." She looked directly at Mr. Bissett. "Congratulations, Mr. Bissett. You failed the audit. Allowing a client to verbally abuse, humiliate, and terrorize your staff, culminating in a staged theft to frame a server, is what we in the industry call gross mismanagement. You are fired. Frank, please escort Mr. Bissett from the premises. His things will be couriered to him." Bissett just whimpered. "Please, Miss Holloway, I didn't know." "That's the point," Kate snapped, her voice suddenly devoid of all warmth. "You didn't care who I was. You only cared what she was. You enabled her. So you're done. Go." Frank, who now understood the power dynamic, nodded sharply and put a firm hand on Bisset's arm, guiding the jelly-legged man away. Kate then turned back to the Davenports. "Now, to the matter at hand." She addressed the security guard. "Frank, please go to the staff bathroom by the loading dock. Feel above the second ceiling tile from the door. You will find Mrs. Davenport's bracelet." "And how do you know?" Genevieve shrieked, finding a last scrap of defiance. "Because you put it there. This is a setup." "I know," Kate said, "because after Bisset suspended me, I didn't leave. I suspected you were unstable, Mrs. Davenport. I've been reviewing your dining receipts and your husband's financial portfolio for the last week. I knew you were desperate. I knew you were cruel. I had a feeling you'd pull a stunt, though I assumed you'd target me again. Not poor Sophie." Kate continued. "So I've been observing from the security room. I came in through the staff entrance. The new manager Bisset hired to replace me, a man my team placed here, let me in. We've been watching you on the high-definition cameras for this entire meal." Kate held up her phone, which was already playing a video. It was a crystal-clear, top-down shot of Table 7. It showed Genevieve slyly, quickly, slipping the bracelet not into her bag, but up the sleeve of her own jacket, while Sophie's back was turned. Then it cut to a different camera. The hallway outside the dining room. It showed Genevieve on her way to the restroom earlier, slipping into the employee-only area. It showed her looking around, pushing up the ceiling tile, and dropping the bracelet inside. You spied on me," Genevieve whispered, horrified. "I gathered evidence," Kate corrected. "Evidence of insurance fraud, slander, and attempted false incrimination. I'd estimate that's, 5 to 7 years, with a good lawyer, which I'm afraid you can no longer afford." This was it. The final, killing blow. She turned to Lawrence Davenport. "Mr. Davenport," she said, her voice now crisp and professional. "You were scheduled to meet with an auditor from the Holloway Group on Monday to discuss the buyout of your failing company." She tapped her leather portfolio. "I'm that auditor, and I'm your Monday meeting." Lawrence made a small, choking sound. "We've reviewed your books, Lawrence," Kate said, using his first name with surgical precision. "The creative accounting you've been doing to hide your losses from the SEC. It's very, very illegal. My father's original offer was, as you called it, pennies on the dollar. It was just enough to cover your debts and keep you out of jail." She leaned in. "But that offer was contingent on a smooth transition." "This," Kate said, gesturing to the scene. The sobbing Sophie, the disgraced Bisset, the hidden bracelet, the stunned diners, is not smooth. "Please," Lawrence begged. He was a broken man. "Please, Miss Holloway, it was her. It was all her. I didn't know. I'm ruined. Just, please don't call the SEC. I'll take the deal. I'll take any deal." Kate looked at him with a profound, cold pity. "The deal is off the table." No, please. My father's new offer is this," Kate stated. "We will not buy your company. We will not save you. We will alert the SEC to your discrepancies. They will likely freeze all your assets by morning. The margin call you're facing, you're going to default. The banks will seize the penthouse. They'll seize the cars. They'll seize everything you used as collateral. You're destroying us," Lawrence wept. "No," Kate said. "You destroyed yourselves. Your wife, with her pathological cruelty, and you, with your weakness and your crime." She paused, then delivered the final, humiliating strike. "However," Kate said, My father is not entirely without mercy. He has authorized me to make one final, non-negotiable offer. Anything, Lawrence whispered. We will acquire your debt. The $15 million, the Holloway Group will pay it off. In exchange, you will sign over 100% of your company, your stock, and your assets to us. All of them. The house in Aspen, the art collection, everything. It will leave you with zero. You will be bankrupt, Mr. Davenport, but you will not be in prison. It was a choice between social death and actual incarceration. I'll take it, Lawrence said instantly, grabbing a pen from the table. I'll sign. Whatever you want. I thought you might. Kate opened her portfolio and slid a single document and a pen across the table. Sign. While Lawrence scrambled to sign away his entire life, Genevieve sat, frozen. She was paralyzed. This was not happening. This was a play, a joke. The bracelet, she mumbled. My bracelet. Kate looked at her, and now all pretense of service was gone. This was not a waitress. This was not an auditor. This was an executioner. Your bracelet? Kate said. Frank, when you retrieve it, please hand it to me. It will be held as evidence in our lawsuit against Mrs. Davenport for the damages to this restaurant's reputation. I'm sure its value will cover Sophie's therapy and the severance packages for all the staff you had fired over the years. Leo for his squeaky shoes. Anne for her lipstick. You see, Genevieve, I did my research. Genevieve finally broke. A low, animalistic wail started in her chest and ripped out of her throat. She wasn't a queen. She wasn't feared. She was nothing. You can't, she whimpered, tears of pure, selfish rage cutting tracks through her expensive makeup. You waitress. You're just a girl in an apron. Kate leaned down, getting eye level with the woman who had tormented her. I was a girl in an apron, and you had your chance. You could have been polite. You could have been civil. You could have been, at the bare minimum, a decent human being. But you chose to be a bully. Kate smiled that cold smile again. And the thing about bullies, Genevieve, is that they're always, always cowards, and they always, always fall. She stood up straight. Lawrence, you've signed. You are now free to go. Your car outside has already been reclaimed by the financing company, I'm afraid. You'll need a taxi. She turned to the entire dining room, which was watching, breathless. Ladies and gentlemen, Kate Holloway announced, her voice ringing with authority. As the new owner of Aperture, please allow me to apologize for the interruption. All your meals tonight are, of course, on the house. She looked at Sophie. Sophie? Go clean yourself up. You're the new manager. We'll talk salary on Monday. Then Kate looked back at the Davenports, the millionaire and his wife, now stripped of everything. Security, Kate said. Please show Mr. and Mrs. Davenport out. They are distracting the other guests. Lawrence, a completely broken man, simply stood. Genevieve, however, was catatonic, staring at the diners who were now whispering and pointing their phones. She was the one thing she had spent her entire life avoiding. A public spectacle. My bag, she mumbled, fumbling for the Hermes Birkin. That bag, Kate said calmly, was purchased with a line of credit against an asset that now belongs to the Holloway Group. It stays. This final, petty cruelty, a cruelty Genevieve herself would have inflicted, was what made her snap. You bitch, she shrieked, lunging across the table, her nails bared like claws, aiming for Kate's face. She never made it. Frank, the guard, caught her mid-lunge, his grip like a steel trap. He and the other guard grabbed Genevieve by the arms. She, who had never been touched, was now being physically, forcefully removed. No, get your hands off me. Do you know who I am? We do, Kate said quietly from behind her. You're nobody. They dragged her, kicking and screaming, through the dining room. Lawrence, weeping silently, shuffled along behind them. The heavy glass doors shut, cutting off Genevieve's final scream. The restaurant was silent. Then, someone started to clap. It was Mrs. Vanderbilt, the woman Genevieve had mocked. She stood, raising her glass. Then the entire dining room erupted in applause. Kate gave a small, appreciative nod, then walked to Sophie, who was staring, dumbfounded. Sophie? Yes. Miss Holloway, Kate, she said, a small, genuine smile finally touching her lips. You can call me Kate. Are you in? In, Sophie whispered. I came here to audit the restaurant, Kate said. The culture was poisoned. But you were kind even when you were scared. You have integrity. That's the culture I want. I'm offering you the position of general manager. Sophie's tears started again, but this time they were of joy. Yes, Kate, I'm in. Good, Kate said, tying a clean apron around her own waist. Sophie's jaw dropped. What are you doing? We're short-staffed, Kate said, grabbing a water pitcher, and we have a dining room full of guests. Let's get back to work. For the next 2 hours, Caitlin Miller Holloway, heiress to an empire, served tables. The oppressive, fearful air was gone. The restaurant was alive. As the last diners left, Kate sat at table 7 with the staff. She raised a glass. To aperture, and to a new rule. The customer is not always right. We are professionals. We will treat them with respect, and we will demand respect in return. We will not tolerate abuse. This is our house. Agreed? Agreed! The staff cheered. Weeks later, the Davenport collapse was old news. Lawrence, having avoided prison, was a divorced pariah. Genevieve had vanished, rumored to be in Ohio, her name erased from New York. Aperture, meanwhile, was thriving. Under Sophie's management and Kate's ownership, the reservation list was 6 months long. It was no longer cold. It was warm. In her new office, Kate looked at the framed, folded black apron on her wall. It was a reminder that sometimes, to fix a problem, you can't just attack it from the top. You have to get on the ground, put on the uniform, and see the rot for yourself. She hadn't just saved a restaurant. She had given it a soul. In the real world, power isn't just about money. It's about how you use it. Genevieve Davenport used hers as a weapon, forgetting the oldest rule: what goes around comes around. She thought she was untouchable, but she was just one new waitress away from losing everything. The truth is, you never, ever know who you're talking to. The person you dismiss, the person you bully, the person you think is beneath you, might just be the one who owns the entire building. They might just be the one holding the pen, ready to sign the paper that ends your entire world. Karma is very, very real. What did you think of Genevieve's downfall? Was it justified, or was Kate's revenge too cold? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you loved this story of karma and justice, please show your support by hitting that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to see it, and be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications. We have new stories of dramatic karma coming every week, and you won't want to miss a single one.